Radio.
Hey, everybody. Everybody? What's that? I don't know. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Svelte Radio episode. I'm not going to do a retake of that because that was funny. I'm joined by Brittney. Hello, Brittney.
Hi.
Hey, and we have another guest today, Sam. Hello.
Hey, Kev. How's it going?
Hey. It's going great. What about you? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm nervous, of course. This is the big leagues.
Don't be. No.
Nervous. Come on. You're
this
among
is just
friends.
Folks
That's
chatting
true.
is how you should look at this.
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm among friends.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right, Brittney, what's new since last week? What have you been up to?
Not much. Just still fighting with Tailwind and Rails and Svelte and all the things.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like some
It's
exciting stuff.
It is.
That's one way of putting it.
I mean,
Interesting.
everything is learning. Like every day I learn something new. So it's interesting. I did learn something.
At the end of this, you will be an expert on this.
What did I learn about line height the other day? I learned that you shouldn't use rems and ems for line height, which I did not know because they can inherit funny. Unexpectedly inherit in different ways than you expect them to. So you should either use pixels or percentages or the like non-percentage values.
Yeah.
Because then they do what you expect them to. Because rems go from the root value of the font size and ems go from the parent value. So it might do an unexpected thing if you use rems or ems for line height.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
So I learn something new every day.
Yeah. Today I learned as well then. I mean, I had no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have I been doing this last week? I've been rebuilding the Svelte Summit website. It's starting to become a dynamic website now. So I'm going to start adding all of the old conferences back to the page.
Oh, sweet.
Which is exciting.
Yeah. Are
Almost
you
done.
using something as the backend for that?
Yeah, just Pocket Base for now. It's not very complicated.
Kev, we talked about the Svelte Summit website last month or 2 months ago, and you planted a seed for me. And I just rewrote my like Svelte Kit tutorial, and I used the Svelte Summit website as the inspiration for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like making a clone of the Svelte Summit website.
I mean,
we saw that on Coding Kit.
Then it's going to be outdated then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but I was like, I really like the Svelte Summit website. It's nice. It's playful. It does what it needs to do. And so it was perfect for doing a tutorial.
It really is quite a basic website, right? It's
I think it would be
straight up just
amazing if you just live streamed this so people could see how like this stuff works.
Mm-hmm. And then rebuilding the summit. Yeah. The thing is with like doing streams for that is that you kind of have to set it. It all becomes a bit of a chore. Like every time you want to work on it, you have to it's time to set up some recording equipment. I'm going to get my microphone. I'm going to do this and that and this. And
you just have to have all that stuff set up ahead of time. Yeah. Just hit play.
But now,
you have to have it ready.
like I told you last week, I think it was last week, I've switched my setup. So now it's all like
kind
my
of mobile
phone.
and ready.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been working great. Like I'm still amazed by the quality of the iPhone camera as a webcam. Yeah. It's actually almost as good as the DSLR, and without the green flashing that I've always had issues with. Yeah. Anyway, that's a lot of talking about the Svelte Summit website and my recording setup for some reason. But let's get into the actual show. Sam, why are you here? No, I'm just kidding. Who are you?
Who are you and why are you here? Things you say to a burglar in the middle of the night. So, I mean, for the purposes of this interview, I am a technical writer at Prismic, and I work on our Svelte integration. So I do some kind of like, I have some sort of DevRel capacity. More generally, I am like a Svelte enthusiast. I have done a few small projects with Svelte myself. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Yeah. What's your background? Like, have you always used Svelte since you were born, or did you?
Yeah, I was doing the 1.0 back in the early 90s.
Oh, nice.
My background is actually in journalism. I did some like feature writing for the newspaper, and then I ran like a website for a magazine for many years, doing writing and content management using WordPress. And I hear this from so many people who wind up working with headless CMS, is that like they started in WordPress and they just found it so frustrating that they decided to dedicate their whole lives to never having to use WordPress again. And that's kind of what happened to me. In 2020, I decided to do a career change. I was living in France at the time, so I moved to Paris to go to do a coding boot camp. Got to Paris March 1st, 2020. My wife got COVID March 12th. I got COVID March 13th, and the country went into lockdown March 14th.
That was like right at the start of the COVID pandemic, right?
Yeah.
That was when it was really bad.
Yeah, that was intense. That was when we had no idea what was going on. And my coding boot camp was supposed to start March 21st. And like March 15th, I'm emailing them like, what is your plan? Like, are we still coming to campus? And I'm like annoyed that they don't know what's going on. Yeah. Which just tells you. But I did the boot camp online. Anyway, I mentioned all of this because it was actually in the context of doing that boot camp where I was learning the MERN stack and getting familiar with React, which was okay, but let's be honest, not that much better than WordPress. And there was an article in Wired about Svelte where they interviewed Rich. And I read that article and I was like, this is what I want. It's like ergonomic. It's designed to be really, really fast. It's just so common sense. It's so practical. So I used React in the boot camp, but then my first goal after finishing the boot camp, this was like May 2020, was to learn Svelte. And then by happy coincidence, I wound up finding a position at Prismic, which is headquartered in Paris, just a few blocks away from where I was living at the time. And in the interview, I told them I wanted to be working on Svelte, and they said to me, look, we need to do a Svelte integration, so you can be our Svelte guy. So I joined the team as kind of like an entry-level technical writer, but my first month there, actually, everyone was on vacation because, as you know, the French go on vacation for all of July and August. So I was alone without a babysitter. And my first month on the job...
Welcome to Europe.
I love it. My first month on the job was literally just learning all of the frameworks that were popular at the time. So I did some more React, Vue, Next, Nuxt, Gatsby, and a little bit of Svelte. And then over the course of that was a little more than 3 years ago. So since then, I've been working on our Svelte documentation, and then the first iteration of our Svelte library, second iteration of our Svelte library. And then now most recently, we have this low-level Svelte integration with our developer tool called Slice Machine. So now we have this very full-featured integration with Svelte, which I'm thrilled about because it means that I get to do all my demos and podcasts like this in the Svelte world, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
Now you get to use what you love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I heard your unpopular opinion in there. You got it in early.
Which one was that?
That React is just marginally better than WordPress.
To be fair, I never actually did any PHP, so that is a totally unqualified opinion. And
sounds pretty qualified to me.
I did as much PHP as if you've ever had the experience of using the WordPress UI to go into your PHP files, and you're how do I change that icon? And you manually change it.
So when I was first starting to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I felt like I was getting the hang of looking at those files and editing just basic source code. And then I looked at WordPress source code. What the crap is this nonsense? I had no understanding of that. It's so different.
Yeah, PHP is a beast. Like I
was going to say the same thing, a beast.
It's completely different, and the syntax is just like spaghetti for me.
Ugly.
Like yes. It's honestly it kind of, and this, I think this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I kind of get PHP vibes from Rust, just because it's also very, very, very like. There's a lot of like characters in there, and you have to like try to read it all.
Verbose.
Verbose, that's the word. Yeah. It's very verbose. Yeah. Same with PHP, also pretty verbose. I'm sure we'll get some Rust warriors in the comments.
I think they like it because it's strongly typed or something. Rust is great in that way. Rust, yeah.
That's how you get viewers, listeners, is with the stirring up with the controversial takes. But actually, my wife is doing an MFA right now in jewelry. That's why Brittany knows I just moved to Italy, so that she could do it. My wife could do this program.
MFA?
A Master's of Fine Arts.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, she's becoming a master of jewelry.
She's what is it? A multi-fighter? What's that? MFA fighter? There's an MFA like MMA? Fighter thing. MMA.
Oh, MMA.
I was thinking she's that.
I'm going to tell her. Everyone thinks that you're a mixed martial arts fighter now. You're doing UFC.
Yeah. I mixed that up.
But so as part of the program, they're doing a web development course. And it's like, the assignment is like, you have to make a website with like WordPress.com or Squarespace or something. But in the introductory classes, they're teaching them HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP. And when she told me she was learning PHP, I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, you're going to start a small business, and the first thing you're going to do is build yourself a website with PHP. Like
honestly, that's kind of surprising. You would learn web development in
I don't know why you would do that.
Well, as a jeweler, you need a website, but
why
I told her
PHP?
you don't need PHP to make a website.
No, you can do so much with just the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You don't
even just HTML and CSS.
Yeah,
but I mean, just that. But then if you need like the interactivity, you can just use the JavaScript. They don't need the PHP. They're just making it more complicated. I'm so angry right now.
This is what you find when you leave your perfect Svelte bubble and go out into the wider web development world, and you're like, what tools are you using? jQuery? What?
Well, Willow, Ghost Dev in the Svelte community, is going to university right now, and they're teaching like HTML. Is it 4? What's the one? We're using HTML 5 right now, and they're using the previous version of HTML in her university class. Like, why?
It takes time to update these course materials. Can't expect them to be up to date.
Because you can't get it for free online.
No, I think that's impossible. They have to do some what's it called when the government takes in different kinds of offers from different companies.
An RFP or whatever. They're still using Blink or whatever. What is it? Marquee? Is that the HTML?
The Marquee tag.
That's a pretty cool HTML element, though.
It is, and it still works. You can use it on Twitch and make things go across. When I was learning to code, though, I paid less than $20 for any course. I paid $10 a couple of times for a couple of Udemy courses, and that was it. That was all I paid for all of my learning to code.
Yeah. And it's kind of amazing.
Mostly free stuff online, like CS50, great Harvard course. Free.
Yeah.
You have to pay for the certificate, but you don't need the certificate.
No.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much learning material out there now. But it would be tough if you had no idea where to start. You wouldn't know where to start, I think,
finding
if you're coming from
which
another
lane you need.
Career. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So let's talk a bit about this this Svelte integration that you've been doing over at Prismic. So first of all, what is Prismic? What does Prismic do?
So the simplest way to describe Prismic is that it's a CMS. To me, one of the hardest parts of building a website is managing the actual content of the website. It's a problem that Like no matter what you're doing, you need to figure out how to answer that. And so Prismic is actually one of the OG headless CMSs before the term headless CMS existed back in 2013. Prismic and Contentful were actually founded at almost exactly the same time with the same idea, which was to do serverless content. And again, this is before even the word serverless was out there. But like have a platform in the cloud where you can create and store content and deliver it to your application via an API. And in the beginning, headless CMS were billed as this like agnostic thing that you could kind of use for anything. Like you could use it for like digital billboards or your Apple Watch or whatever, your like game consoles. And that actually created a lot of problems. I think probably every headless CMS realized that they were spread too thin. And so Prismic decided to focus on specifically websites with like modern JavaScript frameworks. And I think what we realized is that like, if you have a tool that's agnostic and really well designed, it's actually a really good foundation for building an integration, because you have like a really clean API, you have like, it's like really well thought out data structures and everything. So I think we realized we could get a lot more bang for our buck by doing really custom like Tailor framework integrations. So we built integrations for Next and Nuxt. And then just most recently, we built this integration for SvelteKit. And what makes Prismic different from other headless, we actually call ourselves a headless website builder, because you're not just managing content, you can actually build an entire website in Prismic. And the way we do that is with this concept that we call slices, where a slice is like a section of your website, like a block, like a block level element.
Yeah. So is this kind of like the new WordPress editor has, what is it called, Gutenberg or something?
Yeah, Gutenberg.
They also have like blocks and similar kind of thing.
In WordPress, it's a little bit weird because I think like every single P tag in WordPress is a block, I think. Okay. So it's very atomic. In Prismic, it doesn't have to be that way. Like you can have slices that are quite big or that have like fairly complex data structures, and you can customize them however you want. So we have the editor in the cloud. And then what we did with our framework integrations is we built this developer tool which runs locally on your machine. The local development tool is called Slice Machine. And I think to get to the core of it, Slice Machine is basically like a code gen tool. It's like you want to create a new component, click create component, and it generates that in your file system for you, or whatever. And it creates the TypeScript types for you too. So it takes care of. It'll order a pizza. That's on the feed. That's still in the roadmap. But so it basically Slice Machine creates the wiring, the configuration, and the connection between the cloud and your local dev environment. And then it will create the components for you, and it will create them following the format needed for to consume the data from the API. So it just takes care of a lot of the repetitive work, and it makes coding really productive. And it also, because everything's typed and everything's structured very deliberately, it makes it really, really safe. So you can have this website builder tool that you can give to your content editors, knowing that it's very, very resilient. It's very robust.
That sounds great.
Probably hard to visualize this on a kind of audio only podcast, but we did do a Siren Stream showcasing some of this, and it will automate creating some of those pieces in the components. So it will tie all of your API together. It will create the link between the CMS and the local dev environment, and then automatically generate that component for you with the API tied in, which is it was magical. I've never seen this stuff just happen and me not have to do anything. It was kind of nice.
Yeah. Brittany, I haven't stopped thinking about your reaction when I clicked create slice and you were like, oh my God. And I was like, yes, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah. I mean, just the developer experience is so important. And when you have to go and create your schema and then you have to tie in that API yourself, it's cognitive overload, boilerplate stuff you have to remember and do. And it's just such a nice developer experience when all of that's done for you.
Yeah.
I can imagine. So what kind of experience did you folks have when you built this integration?
Yeah.
What was the difference between building one for React or Next or Nuxt, or maybe you probably didn't spend that much time on those integrations, but since you're the Svelte person, but maybe you can talk to some differences there if you.
I mean, I can say we have a great DevX engineer named Angelo Ashmore. And we found him because he, in his spare time, was working on our Gatsby integration. And so we hired him, and he's done amazing work for all of our open source SDKs. So I've been working with him on the Svelte integration, and a lot of it has been like me doing a very rough version, kind of a back of a napkin kind of thing, and then he takes over and does a much more polished version. But I can say for me, doing first a component library, I mean, we don't really talk about this so much anymore, but when SvelteKit was first released, a big part of the marketing around it was like, this is kind of like a batteries included component library framework. Like you can write a component library and then just share it with somebody. And that was really cool. So that got me really jazzed. So I used that as kind of like motivation to build the first version of our component library. And, I have written plenty of React and Next and Vue. And personally, I mean, it's kind of, if you've written Svelte, and you like Svelte, it's why you like Svelte. It's because it's just so literal, right? That's what I found writing it. And I was looking over the components. Some of the components are really, really simple. Like if you have an image in Prismic, you mostly just need to like inject the source and then like add maybe like a width and height and stuff. So it's like very simple. But like when rich text comes from Prismic, it's formatted or stored in an abstract syntax tree. Yep. So there's actually some complicated logic to serialize that all into a string. So we have a Svelte component called Prismic Rich Text, which takes that abstract syntax tree and like iterates over all of the children and the grandchildren and all of like the italics and bold and everything, and strings it all together.
So you're one of the few people that have actually used Svelte :self then.
I am, yes, exactly.
No, I'm sure a lot of people have used it, but it's not something you have to grab that often or use that often.
But when you do have to grab it, it's like, wow, this is so literal. Like I can see exactly what it's doing. As far as recursive programming goes, it's a very nice interface for it.
Yeah. I once did a talk, I think it was at the end of 2019 so I compared React. So I did a Hacker News clone where I compared React and Svelte. So I did a super, super simple implementation, and the recursive stuff in React was very confusing to me because I don't even remember how you would do it, but the Svelte one was much easier to grok.
Yeah, and I was doing a comparison looking at our React rich text component, and it did kind of like make me dizzy right away. I mean, I'm not a huge programmer. I'm better at UIs. But yeah, I like that part.
For sure. And another thing with, if it's React, it's usually like you have 5 different components in the same file, and then you throw in some recursiveness in there, and then you're like, what is even happening? Like it's very confusing.
Yeah. So yeah, writing the component library was really nice. And then, I mean, also, of course, we wrote documentation. That's always been pretty enjoyable because the Svelte, particularly the Svelte kit, like data fetching and everything is pretty well thought out and pretty prescriptive. So I've always enjoyed it for that reason because it's pretty straightforward. Most recently, though, with Slice Machine, we actually architected Slice Machine, which again is the developer tool, to have a plugin system. So the core of Slice Machine is agnostic. And then if you want to use Slice Machine in Next.js, you add a Next.js adapter and you just plug it into Slice Machine. And then the adapter tells it, like, for example, if you click the create slice button, the adapter tells it where that slice should go and what the boilerplate for the slice should be. So as far as that goes, I was talking to Angelo, who worked on this, and it actually wasn't. I was like, so it doesn't sound like you actually needed to integrate with Svelte that intimately, because it's actually, Svelte is well thought out and Slice Machine is well thought out. So there actually isn't that much interaction. What that package does is it will create some files. It uses just strings to inject some boilerplate into those files. It has some Svelte specific code in it. It suggests code snippets for certain things, or it has templates that you can use for certain things. And then obviously it needed documentation and we have some example starter projects that you can use to start with. But all in all, I mean, I think it's probably a testament to the fact that Svelte is well designed, and also a testament to the fact that Slice Machine was well thought out, that the integration, I think, was pretty straightforward. Angelo said that when they actually got the okay from management to build the Svelte plugin or adapter for Slice Machine, it took 2 or 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
That's very fast.
Yeah.
That should tell other companies that are thinking about making Svelte integrations to maybe have a look at building Svelte integrations, because if it's that fast, then there's no reason to not spend a couple of days doing it.
I do think
but then of course
it's
also about absolutely. Yeah. I was just going to say.
And that is where there are some things where we've been trying to figure out what's the best way to do it in Svelte. There's still a fair bit of boilerplate. It would be nice if there was a way to simplify that. I've been wondering about what a Svelte plugin system or a Svelte kit plugin system might look like. There's rollup plugins, there's Vite plugins, and a lot of the other frameworks out there also have plugins. Gatsby has a plugin system. Nuxt has a plugin system, which is, you asked about the difference between integrating with SvelteKit and integrating with Nuxt. And that is a huge difference, is that in Nuxt, you just put in a few settings in the Nuxt config and it takes care of tons of boilerplate, and it does a lot of stuff magically for you. So I'm kind of fantasizing about what that might look like and how that might simplify the integration.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of people want some kind of, at least middleware is what I've heard a lot. Maybe that it's not quite a plugin thing, but middleware for the backend endpoints where you can just attach things like an authentication function. So very simple. I mean, you can already do that, but something that's a bit more official is what I've.
So you're wanting to go middleware into SvelteKit stuff, because we are a plugin to Vite, so there is that side of things where you could just do a Vite plugin, but you want the SvelteKit stuff specifically.
I mean, I'm not quite sure yet. I mean, part of the benefit of a plugin system is that it tells you what to do. And I've done a lot of experimenting and kicking around. At one point I tried writing a rollup plugin to automatically inject components, and it was just so convoluted. I was like, this is a bad idea. Yeah. If I'm fighting this much, I shouldn't be doing it. Some examples, we're currently trying to figure out how to implement previews, which is where if you have something that's unpublished in the CMS, in the cloud, we actually have, in just vanilla JavaScript, we have a pretty simple mechanism for how to access that based on a cookie. And it works almost automatically without having to do much configuration. In Svelte, we're trying to it almost works, except if your web pages are pre-rendered, then that creates a trap. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that with a hook. So I spent yesterday working on writing a handle hook to do this. And I actually came up with a pretty good implementation where it sends you to a different section of a preview version of the website using the hook. And then it switches to SSR. But we're still asking users to write a ton of boilerplate.
either add the handle hook from some package and then
exactly. And so like that would be one example where like to be able to just do that hook automatically would be really nice.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So those are some missing things then. Are there other bad stuff that you run into that's
the bad stuff?
I mean, I'm sure Svelte has bad stuff. I just haven't run into it at all, but of course.
What is some bad stuff? That's actually a really good question. And I can't think of much. There are a couple of things in the documentation. I thought I should open a PR in the documentation for, like for instance, the page store. I had this happen like twice where I ran into a bug with the page store because I don't think maybe I missed it, but I don't think it explicitly said in the docs that page has to be prefixed with a $sign.
Right. I guess since I think the documentation says that it's a store, and I think they assume that you will think that it's a Svelte store, right? But that's not
docs
probably
should
not
not
that obvious.
Have assumptions.
Right. Yeah. So that. Speaking
from a technical writer, right?
Yeah. And even stuff like there should be. I haven't looked in the documentation for a while, but there should even be probably an example where you use it as well.
Yeah,
where you see the prefix and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I did figure it out pretty quickly, so it couldn't have been that big a problem. Yeah. But that's not a problem with Svelte. Like I said, I'll probably open a PR in the docs or something for that.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it kind of would make sense to, at least in development mode, to have a compiler warning to say that like, is this actually what you wanted to do? Log out the set update and subscribe methods, or did you actually want to use the value or something like that?
Yeah,
totally.
I don't know.
We usually have really good compiler warnings. I've seen a couple of bad ones lately. We have another one. When you use the incorrect name or default version of a component from like a component library, it just spits out this inexplicable SSR error. And every time I freak out and I like have to look it up, and then I find this old issue and I'm like, oh yeah. And eventually I'm going to get the pattern and realize that, I used the wrong one. But it's like, why is that error so awful? Like, why does it not just say, did you use the wrong name import?
Is that the one where like, if you import a named export as like a default, then it'll say like such and such is not like a valid component. And
it says error SSR is not a valid, or it's not a valid SSR component.
Yeah. I've banged my head against that one a lot.
Yeah.
And so
and
finally
all
I'm like,
you have to do
I
is
did
like
the import
take the
wrong.
curly braces off, and it works magically. And it's like, why does that say like anything about SSR? Why does it not just say like, maybe you used the wrong import?
Yeah.
One thing that I've spent a lot of time fiddling with, and there's probably a philosophical explanation for this, or like maybe like a long GitHub discussion about it or something, but handling Svelte components in JavaScript is one place where like React and JSX definitely has a leg up. Like if you want to programmatically do stuff with Svelte components, it wouldn't be so hard if you were just doing it on the client or the server. But because they're different, by my understanding, they're different APIs, it gets very messy or maybe even impossible very quickly. So I've banged into that in the Prismic integration and also in personal projects.
Yeah. I think so in React, you wouldn't have to do this, but in Svelte, we need the Svelte component, right, to solve stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it does get a bit tricky. I think as well.
Yeah.
Definitely something I've ran into as well.
This is kind of what Thomas was talking about with Melt, and how like you can't pass things into children the same way either as you can in React. And It's sort of along the same lines, because he was saying runes might help this, where you can use the same things on the client and the server, because we can't use the same APIs right now between like JavaScript and the Svelte files, but the runes might actually allow us to do that and allow some of those things.
I'm not sure it's the same thing. I think this is more about like being able to, like in JSX, for example, you can do, let's see if I can explain this correctly. So say you have a component called button. In JSX, you could actually just do a string and pass in button, right? Mm-hmm. And that would work. That's not something you can do in Svelte. You would need to pass the button into the Svelte component thing to get that working, I think. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
I'm also trying to think, like, I've run into this on my blog where like I'm trying to get like a list of blog posts, and it gets like, I'm querying them in JavaScript, and they're like using MD specs. They're like markdown files that are getting compiled to Svelte, and then I'm querying them in JavaScript, and then trying to like work with them in JavaScript, and I can't remember what exactly, but like I hit walls there very quickly.
Yeah.
I think that is similar to that as child thing, because that is like a component, and you can use like the Svelte component, but you can't pass a string in. So it's different than you have to do it in React. But yeah.
Yeah, let's see what they'll cook up for Svelte 5. Maybe we'll see some cool stuff there.
Maybe. But I mean, in general, I feel bad now that I've been complaining, because like in general, it's been really pleasant. I also like work on our forum and like on our support channel, and we get very few problems with Svelte. And when we do, they're usually pretty straightforward to debug. Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of one of those situations where no news is good news. You know, it's like, it seems like it kind of just works.
Yeah. I mean, that's hopefully what people are experiencing as well. It's What are you excited? What do you think is missing in Svelte? What would you like to see in Svelte 5? Ooh. Is there some feature that you would love to see? For me, this is a really tough one.
I'll say something that I don't think is going to happen.
All right.
Data fetching in React server components is really, really nice. And when I saw what that looks like, I thought, oh, they just made data fetching actually easier in React than it is in Svelte.
Interesting. I haven't used React server components.
Like, I haven't looked at
how does that work?
Well, I think it's only possible because it's only happening on the server. So it's kind of a cheat, maybe. But it's like you can literally just do an async. You can do like an async expression in your component.
But how does it get passed to the client if it's only happening on the server?
Okay, so this is where my ignorance kicks in. It's like, I don't think it can render on the client. It has to be server rendered and then passed to the client as like a static thing, I believe.
Right.
And if you want a component with client-side reactivity, it can't be a server component, I believe.
Ah, interesting.
From my use cases, I rarely need client-side reactivity.
Yep.
I'm kind of like going back 5 or 10 years in web development to like, how do I do static stuff? How do I do stuff that's not reactive? I just want server rendering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also, I think, a downside of using Svelte. Like, you send all of the data and it rehydrates all of it. Like, if we could improve that a bit in the next Svelte
I think that is some of the stuff that they're hopefully working on, is how the hydration and the compilation works between the components, and how it scales the components is what I'm looking at, because I know right now we have a problem with scaling how many components in an app. Like at scale, sometimes that can get very large.
I think, honestly, I think that's it's just something that people read and never run into.
But I think it is actually an underlying issue that they've talked about.
yeah, of course. Like
that
I'm,
it is
I'm
it is
100%
a
sure
problem that is, but
Yeah.
it's maybe not as inflated as people lead it
Yeah.
to
I
sound like
think
in
it's
blog posts.
for me, it's more of a marketing issue than an
Yeah.
actual like performance issue, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, it's not
good
a
that
huge
they solve it.
performance issue. It's just, it is something that needs to be addressed, and it sounds like they are addressing it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And some, like, it's what other frameworks can point at and say, oh, look how bad it is. Right? Here's why you should use X instead. Or what? Not
But
the
I mean,
Twitter
it's
thing. I mean,
as far as the success of Svelte is going, Svelte is still growing like crazy. Like it's not, and it's still, the speed is still very competitive.
Yeah.
More realistically, I would say if we could see a plugin system in, well, I guess that wouldn't be in Svelte. That would be in the Svelte kit.
Svelte kit. Yeah.
But
So
if I
like
could
for
see a plugin
2.0
system,
of kit. Yeah.
that would be my Christmas morning.
All right. Any other things that we should chat about with regards to the integration or thoughts? No?
I don't know. I feel like that was really, really interesting.
Yeah. Awesome. Then if there's no other, do you have any questions, Brittany, before we move on to
No, I think we're good.
the next section that's called Unpopular Opinions? Ooh.
Yeah.
And Anthony is not here. He always has an unpopular opinion. I've seen him on Twitter lately, just replying to all these folks about cars in London or something.
Firing off on people. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always on something. Yeah.
And it's always like to what's the prime minister call it? It's Rishi Sunak, I think. On Rishi Sunak's is like, we are improving this by doing this, and then there's Anthony in the comments always like, yeah, look at what you did here. It's pretty funny to see.
I just followed him on Twitter today, so I'm excited to see.
Oh, nice. You'll see a lot about biking in London and roasting of the prime minister of the UK,
Okay.
pretty much.
I lived in the
also
UK
a
for
bit
2
of
years,
Svelte.
so.
All right. Yeah.
I actually have
so-
an unpopular opinion today.
Go for it. Tell us all about
My
it.
unpopular opinion is that meetings are not work. I think that they can be work and productive, but most of the time they are not. And they're a waste of time, especially when they take up an entire day.
Yeah. That didn't sound as bad.
If they're not work, why are they so hard?
Why are meetings so hard?
They're
I
like
know.
exhausting.
Oh,
Right.
I think that's just like being on camera. It's exhausting. And so like if you're on camera for your meetings, if you're remote and talking and cognitive stuff is just like exhausting. So I think that part of it is exhausting. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they're just mostly time fillers and time wasters, and I think they can be productive if you make good use of them. I just think that they should be short and sweet and get to the point and only what you need done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. More meetings should follow the like the stand-up philosophy kind of.
Yeah.
Just be super short, and then also probably most meetings would do good by having a hard limit on the time.
There is something that happened this week where we had a Slack thread to try to avoid a meeting, and I would have rather just had the meeting because the Slack thread did nothing to help things. So a 15-minute meeting would have avoided like a week of us just waiting on people to respond. So in that case, a 15-minute meeting would have been fine. And now I have a 30-minute meeting tomorrow instead of the 15-minute meeting. It probably would have saved us on Monday. But so there are times where it can be. There are also times where it's just a waste of my time and day, where I get no actual work done.
Yeah, but it's still work. I told you I was going to fight you on this one.
I know. I disagree sometimes, like half the time, maybe half the time.
Yeah.
You know what this signals to me? What I'm hearing is that, Brittney, you like your work.
Oh, I love my work.
You feel like when you're in a meeting, it's taking you away from the work that you enjoy.
Yeah. And I have a problem stopping my work. I will like do my work. If I'm by myself and I have no other choice, I will do my work. I will go sit in a restaurant and work because I love what I do and I love building. Like I love the design system stuff. I enjoy that. And I'm very passionate about it. So I'm kind of a workaholic in that sense. And I like that stuff.
That's nice. That's cool.
I don't know if my family thinks that.
Yeah, it's a hard balance. my girlfriend works too much as well. From my point of view, it's not nice, but like she thinks it's fun at times, at least. So yeah, it is what it is. Sam, do you have an unpopular opinion?
Yeah. Okay. The web is 30 years old, right? This year, 1993.
Wow.
It's 2023,
about right?
Yeah.
So freaking old.
My unpopular opinion is that by 2030, we will have reached Web 2.0.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like 15, 20 years ago, everyone was like, Web 2.0, like the web is interactive now. You know?
Right.
But from my perspective, it kind of failed. Like interactive web is like not that real. And what I mean by this is like, if you were going to tell your parents or something how to build a website, like where would you start them? Like probably you'd start them on some like platform like WordPress or something, which isn't real. Like it's kind of a website, but it's not like you're writing code that you own. It's more like a social network. It's almost like you're making a Facebook profile or something because it's so contained. Mm-hmm. But like if you wanted to make your own website, it would be really hard. Even if you want to use SvelteKit, you have to figure out Node and Git and like at least some basic HTML and CSS.
And for Kit in particular, you need to figure out like what adapter you should use.
Yeah.
Right. That's another extra
There's
step.
like a lot of things to learn.
I kind of wish there was a built-in kind of just publish button that would publish your static site to like some Svelte server somewhere.
I mean, it works like with Auto, like you can publish to Netlify or Vercel like automatically with that.
But I would want it to be built into the CLI or like you would just like run npm publish without doing anything and it would just like put up your site.
And you can, if you have like the Netlify CLI, you can do that, but you have to know that stuff. It's still like knowledge you need.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's where Sam's getting.
All of that is just to publish a website. And then think about like, if you wanted to create a website with comments from scratch, like I'm not even going to try to do that because like I hate figuring out databases, you know? So like I envision a world where like I could help a family member set up their own website from scratch with commenting easily. And that to me would be Web 2.0. A distant,
I feel like we're getting
future
there.
Reality. Yeah.
Especially with ChatGPT and similar tools.
So
like I've been using that a lot for database stuff. Writing
I think
queries.
that things like Squarespace and Builder.io, those tools are like kind of coming a long way and like creating a website. And I think you're right. Like in a few years, like those tools will have come farther to like help with creating. But Kev, I also have something to say to you so at the end of like most of my Siren streams, I haven't done it lately, but I used to like use the GitHub CLI. I push to my repo and then I use the Netlify CLI and I publish my website. In like less than 5 minutes, I've got a new repo and a published website. So, I mean, it's like CLIs are amazing, but you have to have that knowledge.
Brittney, wasn't that on our stream?
On the GitHub CLI is what I use, but I didn't publish the website with the Netlify CLI. Yeah. No,
you did because you published it on Netlify because we needed it published in order to do the live previews. And I was like,
But didn't we do Vercel? Because didn't you say, can you publish it on Vercel in like 2 minutes?
Oh, maybe.
And I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know. And I'm like, I haven't used Vercel in a long time. And I opened Vercel and I just did it all through their GUI instead of the CLI. Because I didn't have their CLI installed. I don't really use Vercel that much. Because
I have a distinct memory of you typing in a command in the CLI and deploying
GitHub.
a website. And
that was the GitHub CLI.
It like made me like, no, that's my workflow. I mean, not like for everything, but I started doing it myself.
So that was the GH repo create will create a repo for you. And then but you have to like add and do all that other stuff. And then you had to push your repo. And then once your repo's up on GitHub, then you can go to Vercel, or if you have the Netlify CLI, then you can just use the Netlify CLI. Vercel must have a CLI too, but I don't
I'm sure they do.
Or use it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's very nice.
Netlify has NTL, and you can NTL publish, NTL deploy. I haven't used it in a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start again. Our documentation site's on Netlify. So
I haven't used any of these tools, even though
I love CLIs. That's my pick. CLIs.
That's your pick. All right. Yeah, I think I've talked about this a bit on one of the earlier episodes, but I've been moving away from renting a dedicated server to actually self-hosting it myself at home for Svelte Society.
God.
Maybe I haven't actually talked about this.
Wow.
But yeah. So
Why do you like pain?
That's going to be my pick. I like to tinker.
Oh, that sounds so painful. Like these services they're free.
You know, I'm gonna talk about another project that helps you with this. So
okay,
yeah,
go for it.
I don't have an unpopular opinion, so maybe I can go for the first pick.
All of your opinions are popular.
100%. Okay, so I have 2 picks. One is called Coolify, and is an open source platform as a service kind of thing, which is something you install on a server. So this is what I installed on my server at home, and it lets you deploy applications. It's kind of like a self-hosted Vercel or Netlify in a sense. Obviously not as polished or doesn't have all of the features, but you can basically
Coolify.
No, Coolify.
I know. So, I'm saying it's Coolify than Netlify or Vercel.
Oh.
I was trying to be corny.
Right. Sorry. But yeah, it works great. You can just put in a Docker Compose file, add some environment variables, hit deploy, and it just gives you a website. I just pushed up analytics for Svelte Society, for example, using Plausible.
Is it free?
It is free. They have a serviced, like you can pay for it as well. But that's so that makes it a lot easier. You still have to bring your own server. So that's just for basically what they do is they give you the GUI on their server, and then you can add servers onto the Coolify instance, if that makes sense. I'm just going to use it for one server, so I don't need to do that.
So if you're running your own server, how does the speed compare?
So the server I bought is basically faster than the one I rented on Hetzner. So I think that one cost me 40 euros a month ish, and then this one was I think 600 euros total.
Wow.
So, and it's faster. It has more memory and more disk space, and it's on my. The downside obviously is that it's on my home connection, right?
But you were paying before to rent one, and now you just paid it outright straight. Yeah, exactly. The downside is obviously that I'm running it at home on my own connection constantly.
And yeah, it's been going down a lot recently.
So the other thing is that these services are content delivery networks. So they are around the world servers, and you can put them in one location, right? But they also like put them out at the edge if you want. And so your users may be closer to that server. So your server is in your house.
Yep. I've thought about this though. So this is really like a pretty solvable issue. Like you put a CDN in front of it. The data fetching has to happen close to the server anyway. So it has to go somewhere to fetch the data.
How do you put a content CDN in front of it?
So the simplest thing is just put Cloudfire in front of it. It's basically just a button that you hit.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's very fun to do.
When I was trying to think of an unpopular opinion earlier, the first one that came to mind was like, you might not need SEO. And I feel like when you're talking about like CDNs and hosting and stuff, like you're talking about page speed. And like page speed is mostly for SEO. Like that's kind of why we've become so obsessed with it in the last 10 years. But like if SEO is not a top priority for you, like for instance, the Svelte Summit website, the only keyword it really needs to rank for is Svelte Summit, and it's going to no matter what. So like it doesn't, like page speed is not necessarily the most important factor for that website. So which means that like hosting it on a box in your closet might be fine.
What's your reasoning for not needing SEO?
Well, there's a few things. One, most of the time when we're talking about SEO, we're talking about like really competitive SEO. Like if I want to rank for like New York cars, then I'm going to need to be really, really competitive on like page speed, links, optimizations and stuff. But if I want to rank for Prismic, like that's actually going to be pretty easy because I am Prismic.
Well, let's put it this way. What about a CMS, Prismic, Contentful, Sanity? How do you rank against those?
And in that case, it's very important to have like a really competitive, like that's a very competitive SEO. But that's only one marketing strategy, right? Like not every business needs SEO as like an inbound sales channel. Yeah. And you might like, I think we have a bit of FOMO, like, oh, we need to be selling on Twitter and Facebook and Google and radio and stuff. But like, if you can do one channel or two channels really well, then you might be able to forget about the other ones. So like maybe your channel is word of mouth, or maybe your channel is like literally local radio stations or something, or flyers. And then like, you might not need to worry about SEO, and you can have like a slow, old, ugly website, and that would be fine.
Yep.
I do think focus is important for some business. So like focusing on like what your customer base is, like finding that and focusing on it.
Yeah. I will say on the contrary, while SEO might not be important, accessibility always top priority. Like that's
SEO is
important.
Not important for our website. Our website is private. It's not rankable on Google. It's a private because you have to log into it. So it's not important.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. My really quick second pick is commit AI. If you're lazy like me and don't like writing commit messages, this is the thing for you.
This sounds like a pitch.
It really does, right? It's like an AI tool that analyzes your commits, or like the files in the commit, and then writes a tidy commit message for you.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I've been trying this out, and it's quite nice.
It's called it's Commit not perfect, AI.
Commit like you're committing, and then AI. Yeah, I think.
Cool.
I'll double check. That's me. Who wants to go next?
Cool. I have a pick. I was looking at the State of CSS survey, which came out like last month. And actually, I had to check my search history. Like I had to do a double take because like the day before, literally, the survey came out, I was searching for CSS frameworks. And I was like, still no CSS frameworks that I like. And then the next day, the State of CSS came out, and it mentioned open props as like a new up and comer. And I checked it out. I really like it. I like it because I like writing CSS. I don't like Tailwind and
Right.
What do you call it? Is that atomic CSS? I can't remember.
Utility classes. I mean,
utility classes,
atomic is one way to call it. Yeah.
I don't like utility classes.
Open props is more of a, it's also utility
CSS
based,
variables.
but the utilities are in variables instead of classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can
nice.
you can use the variables like very similar to the way you'd use normal CSS properties, but they're like really logical. They kind of encourage you. They kind of like encourage you in a certain direction. And so I've been using it for about a month now, and I've kind of gotten used to it. And yeah, it's just a really nice kind of pleasant experience.
Was created by Adam Argyle. They actually have a Discord server. I used it on the Svelte Siren site before we converted it to Skeleton. I really liked it too. I think I like ergonomically and for DX and speed, like I like Tailwind a little better. I think that it just makes me faster. And when you're creating a component library where everything is just scoped to that one component, like having the Tailwind classes in line is not ugly. It's not as ugly as like seeing them all over your code base, because the components, you don't see those in the components and then they're extracted in the API, because then you're just using them as props. So it's not like as bad.
Okay.
It's definitely what's it called? A dividing.
It's a love-hate thing. Yeah, I like being able to write my states and my media queries in my class. Like that increases my speed tenfold. Just being able to do hover : or focus : and then like large, medium, small, whatever, or mobile : and then write my.
I think you're right.
query.
That's probably the actual selling point of Tailwind.
Yeah.
Probably, like being able to do that.
Yeah.
Never thought about that. All right, Brittney, what's your pick?
My pick was the CLIs. I guess if I have to pick one CLI, GitHub CLI is really cool. I love it. I use it every day, all the time. Well, not every day, because I don't push a new repo to GitHub every day, but I do really like it a lot. And like every Siren stream, I use it because I create a new repo. But Netlify CLI is also really good. I like using it. But any CLI,
any CLI.
When you're using the GH CLI, do you use that for your commits, or do you use Git for your commits?
I use Git. I guess I didn't think about using the GH CLI, but maybe I should like look up what that is, because
I don't even know if you can.
You probably can, and maybe I should.
But what would be the difference? Like, how much shorter can it get?
Well, you have to write
easier?
Like git add.a and git commit -m. And so, I mean, it could be like GHA or GHC, and then you could just type. That would be amazing. I don't know. I don't know what the actual letters are, but I'm just guessing what it could be. And like our Svelte create command, our Svelte add for Tailwind, like that kind of stuff. It's such nice developer experience stuff like that makes me happy.
Yeah. Developer experience is everything.
Yes.
It really is very nice.
It is.
Okay. I think that is all for today. Sam, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter, Sam Littlefair, and if you want to see what I do, check out Prismic, prismic.io. If you want to try it out, we have a demo of the editor that you can access from the homepage of the website. I think it's prismic.io/try. And otherwise, if you want to try out Prismic with Svelte, there's best way to get started would be to create an account, create a new repository, and choose SvelteKit. And then there's a demo project that you can try out, and it'll kind of walk you around and show you the ropes and stuff, and you can see what it's all about.
All right. Exciting. Thanks for joining us today. It was super fun.
Thank you so much.
And
it's always great seeing you.
Let's do this again sometime.
I had a great time.
For everyone who's listening, thank you for listening again. You managed to get through this 1 hour of banter with us. It was a lot of fun. And we will, as always, see you next week. Goodbye.
Right. Later.
Bye.
Hey, it's Kev here. If you like the show, please drop a review on your favorite podcast player. It would help out a lot. Thanks.